Right, I'm going to start off by playing you a short video. Hopefully, can you see that now?
So let's just make this very clear. My nan, my 97-year-old nan here, who we have taken from the care home because we haven't seen her for 9 months, is now being taken back by force to her care home. My mother has been arrested. My mother is in the back of the car here. She is a nurse. She is a fully qualified nurse who is wishing to care for her own mother. And here we have an incredible use of police time to take my 97-year-old grandmother back into a care home where she is deteriorating, where we haven't been able to see her for 9 months. Nan, I love you and we are going to fight for you.
Let's talk to Leandra Ashton now. Good morning to you, Leandra.
Good morning, Julia.
Good morning. I think it was incredibly brave of you to put that out online, but I'm really pleased you did, because I think it's really important that people understand this isn't just happening to one family. This isn't a one-off. There are tens and tens and tens of thousands of families right now who are being separated from their loved ones in a care home. Tell us a little bit about the background to this and your 97-year-old grandmother and the situation she's been in.
Yeah, so I mean, we've tried to go down every official channel we could. I've written to my MP countless times, had no response. We raised what's called a safeguarding issue because we could see the deterioration of my nan early down in lockdown. She has dementia. It takes a lot of time to feed her and to give her drinks. And in a care home setting, what we found over the years is it's just not adequate.
Well, that's it. I think a lot of people are wondering, well, hold on a minute. How can you not have the right to bring your grandmother home to her loving family, especially with her daughter who's able as a nurse to care for her? We know she knows what to do. On what legal basis can they stop her leaving the care home?
So when someone has dementia, there has to be something called a power of attorney in place. Now, we have power of attorney for my nan's finances, but it was an oversight by my grandfather before he died, thinking that my nan would always be able to express what she wanted. So the power of attorney for well-being or for health wasn't put in place. So now all decisions have to be made with the local authorities. But unfortunately, the local authorities are cutting us out of the conversation. It took the police to tell us yesterday that my nan has a new social worker. And they then informed us that we weren't on the correct paperwork. So it becomes like this Kafkaesque nightmare where you're just stuck and unable to just quite simply have any influence over your loved one's life.
Well, your grandmother's effectively being held prisoner. I mean, to all intents and purposes, her family want to have her home safely and she can't leave. The state has basically taken over control of her life rather than her family being able to care for her.
So obviously you've got the story there that a 97-year-old woman who wanted to be taken home by her daughter, who's a qualified nurse, was forcibly taken back by police, and her daughter was actually arrested. But there was a couple of key things that were said there that, you know, you have to listen to it 2 or 3 times to actually get it. But first of all, she said this is not a one-off. It's happening to tens of thousands of people every year. And secondly, the local authorities are refusing to engage with the families, that they're not involving families in the care package. So the loved ones who know the person best are being completely cut out by the local authorities. So, you know, if you've got somebody that you're worried about that you may one day need to care for, or if it's you that's going to need care one day, your life could be put in the hands of strangers who have absolutely you know, don't know you. They don't really know what your wishes and what your desires are. So this is why LPAs or powers of attorney is so important. So let's just have let me just shut that down. Okay, so let's just have a look at what the true cost of not having a power of attorney is. Now, if you don't have a power of attorney, you have to go to court, to the Court of Protection, and apply for what's called a deputyship order to become someone's deputy. Okay, because a lot of people don't realize this, is that if someone does lose capacity, and losing capacity doesn't have to be permanent, it can be temporary, right? So, you know, dementia is obviously sort of more permanent, but you can lose temporary capacity. You've had an accident, you're in a coma, or you've an illness or an accident. Someone, you know, like Kate Garraway's husband, who had COVID and was in a coma, you know, he might well go on to make a full recovery. So it can be temporary or permanent, but if you lose capacity, nobody has the legal right to make decisions for you. Not a spouse, not a family member, not a loved one. In this context, next of kin does actually not exist. Okay, so the only way someone can make decisions for you is by going to court to get a deputyship order. And it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare financially, and it's a nightmare emotionally. But to bring an application to court is going to cost about £4.5 grand or just under, right, in fees. And that doesn't include paying the solicitors. I mean, if you actually get a solicitor to help you with all these fees, then you're probably adding, you know, you're probably going to double that at the very least. And if you do get granted a deputyship order, it doesn't stop there, because it's actually quite onerous. The courts require constant supervision. Okay, there are ongoing costs. You have to have a supervision fee, a security bond, which is like an insurance policy. But even then, they are quite onerous. They will, you know, there's constant supervision back to the courts. You have to account for every penny you spend. They could give you a surprise visit. You can't sell things like someone's property, which you may need to do. So it's actually, you know, really quite onerous. So, you know, my plea is, if possible, make an LPA, because if you wait until it's too late, then deputyship may be your only option, and it really is a nightmare. So the solution is to have lasting powers of attorney. I've gone on about what they are. Obviously, there's the two: there's the health and welfare and the finance. But they're a 20-page document which lists the donors, the attorneys, replacement attorneys, you know, the restrictions, all the relevant information that's needed. Goes into a 20-page document, and then that's sent off for registration. Right now, currently, court protection, getting an order is can take over a year. I've seen it take a little bit even longer than that. Lasting powers of attorney are currently taking 14 to 16 weeks. It used to be about 8 to 10 weeks before lockdown, and now it's sort of 14 to 16 weeks. But that's still a quarter of the time it takes to get a deputyship order, and it's still a hell of a lot more expensive. To get 2 powers of attorney for someone with the fees is going to cost around about 500 quid, right? When you can consider that, a deputyship order that's going to cost about 4.5 grand plus the legal fees, so it could easily run into 8 or 9 or 10,000 pounds. So the lasting powers of attorney is really, for someone like me, I liken them to an insurance policy. Okay, the best scenario is that you pay me to do them, and that you never have to use them, that they'll sit in the drawer or sit in the safe and you never have to use them. But if someone were to lose capacity, then these are probably the most important tools that your loved ones have to look after you. And as in the video, if Leandra had power of attorney for her nan, or even if her mum had power of attorney for her nan, all that aggravation would have been easily been avoided, and fortunately the police did actually de-arrest the lady. I think there would have been uproar if they'd have charged her, it had gone any further. But she could have easily then, with a power of attorney, brought her grandmother home, and her mum could have looked after her. So that's it. Any questions?